Stories. Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 402. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is currently the 25th of the 5th in the year of our Lord 2024, the 25th of May. Yeah, once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit that like button. Really get those double taps pumping. Get those likes pumping into the higher numbers. That's how the algorithm knows this is some good stuff. Shoots the notification out to some more people there. So if you are ever wondering how come you don't receive the notification when I jump in, blame it on the rest of people who jump in the live and don't hit that like button. Now some people every now and again I see they say comments are filtered, and I know from last night that sometimes they filter comments. So if you see me not respond to something, it's a possibility I didn't even see your comment. White Leather says you change your bulb or lighting looking different. It's just the angle of the lighting really and truly changed. Same lights, just a different angle. Roddy Will says, young childless and hardworking, that's my type. That's a good type to have, Roddy. That is a good type to have. As per usual, this is brought to you by Mindful Education. If you're interested in some extra classes for some young ones out there, some private tutoring, one-on-one, some struggling in some subjects, get in touch with us. Or if you just like to change the atmosphere in which they learn, you think that child needs a different view, a different outlook on learning itself, you can join the learning pods. We have learning stages from preschool all the way up to CXE. Get in contact with us. Let's see if we could jump into the news. I need help with Matt Baptins says, well, I mean, if you're talking about general math in life, well, I don't know. We do CXE math. So if you need that, sure, message or shoot a message out and we will get in contact with you too. See what we can arrange. Now, Dr. Rowley is having some problems with the judiciary. He is upset. The justice system does not seem just. Rowley hits bail business. Justice favors criminals. The Prime Minister has alleged that some people charged with serious criminal offences and who are out on bail are carrying out criminal business, a part of which involves paying the lawyer and bailman. Speaking during the conversations with the Prime Minister Forum on May 23rd at the Scarborough Library, Tobago, Dr. Rowley was highly critical of the justice system as it relates to treatment of those who commit murders and other violent crimes. Referring specifically to those out on bail for violent acts, Rowley said, is a business they are carrying on, and the system facilitates it because the system is skewed towards the rights of those people and not the rights of the victim. And until we start to look at these things from that perspective, then they're laughing at us all the time because the delay diminishes the horror of crime and when crime takes place, so we need to be able to dispense justice faster and more effectively. This is not the first time the PM has had similar views on the justice system. At the conversations in March 2022, he said then that in the last 7 years, despite the resources and priority accorded to the judiciary, he has not seen any acceleration of justice. The delivery of justice in TT is unacceptably slow. I have been PM for 7 years and I've given the judiciary priority, hundreds of millions of dollars in resources. I ensured that the parliament that was not being repaired, that it was repaired to completion, and the space the parliament was occupying on the waterfront, we made it entirely available to the judiciary to have 75 additional courts. We have increased the numbers of masters and judges, removed from the judicial system 100,000 plus motor car cases. We're giving demerit points rather than going before judges and magistrates. We've cut hundreds of thousands of cases from the system, and I have not seen any acceleration of justice in TT. You know, these complaints are particularly stinging coming from our Prime Minister. In case any one of us out there does not understand how exactly our political system is supposed to function, The job of the Parliament, the upper and lower houses, good night, Smithy, their primary focus is legislation. They are considered the legislature. They are the legislative branch. Legislation is law writing, writing the laws. The Prime Minister is the leader, the head, the top of that legislative branch. For him to complain about the judiciary as if there's nothing he could do about it, that how am I supposed to have hope as a regular citizen? It seems like our Prime Minister is as frustrated as everyone else. And I mean, I understand being frustrated with the situation, but you can't be the same frustrated as everyone else when you are the person with whom the solution is supposed to be rested with. Ronnie's will says, well, the man say what he did. And then he is saying that he doesn't know what to do to speed this up. If he's saying he did all of this and nothing happened, nothing came out of it to speeding up the system, he's saying he doesn't know what to do to speed up the system. How are we to have hope? You know, it's like if you go to a restaurant, yes, world, if you go to a restaurant and you taste the food, they bring some, what is everybody going favorite? The Alfredo. They bring some fettuccine Alfredo out there for you, Alfredo pasta. And it's salty, no tail. It's real salty. Like somebody slip up a salted pigtail inside of there or something. Can you imagine you bring this to the attention of the chef? Chef, I find this Alfredo real salty. And the chef tells you, you know, real people complaining about that the past few weeks, you know? I don't know what's going on. The Alfredo coming out of the kitchen salty every day for the last couple of weeks. Now, here's the thing. I as a taster and the chef as a taster, we could both taste that the Alfredo is salty. And that's understandable. Yes, sir, I taste it, you taste it. But the difference is, you're the chef. Okay, you might say, I am not in control of all aspects of the kitchen. I am not the one directly sprinkling salt. We hired a novice to sprinkle salt, and instead of sprinkles, he's throwing handfuls. And okay, I understand. But nonetheless, you are the one in charge. So if someone is throwing handfuls of salt inside of the Alfredo pasta, you are the one that is supposed to find out who it is and fire them or change them or teach them. How is it that we are in this country facing this? The leader who is supposed to be able to make these changes to fix it is saying, oh my goodness, this is so frustrating. What do you mean, sir? It starts to get kind of frustrating. Kind of hopeless. It's like in a family. If there's a family, daddy, mommy, and children, and daddy and mommy start to cry and pull out their hair because they're frustrated about how things going and how we going to make it, what do you expect from the children? Now, granted, I'd come right after that to say that the relationship between government and the citizens is not a paternalistic one and not a daddy and children one. But nonetheless, you understand the analogy that is being made there. Jamie Ford says crime pays, nobody's going to stop a main component in a profitable system. That's what the Prime Minister was saying. It's a good business. He went on, in fact, it is now good business and the criminals do it. If you banish the apprehended, there's a very good chance that he will be getting grandchildren before your case goes to the courthouse. That is an area of serious concern to me. Rowley said although the police do a significant amount of good work and will apprehend somebody for some reason, the process of bringing that person to getting a jail cell or whatever conviction brings for him is now something to take place in the future. And then, of course, by the time the case comes around, the outrageous nature of the crime seems to have been reduced because that happened so long ago. The PM spoke about a situation in which a woman complained she had been raped 15 years earlier, but was in the courthouse still waiting for the matter to be tried. Rowley said that to him is a bigger problem than the Prime Minister having to respond to calls to fire National Security Minister Hines. In May last year, Hines also claimed on state-owned television that criminals had friends in the Judiciary. The PM didn't mince his words as he expressed his displeasure at the state of affairs in the judiciary when it came to bail for certain serious crimes. Where I grew up, if you were charged with murder, you had no bail to get. And I never knew about anybody killing witnesses. But in this environment where you get bail for murder and you come out and you have a gun, again, what the hell do you expect? And they are following the other people's situation, which are not fit for our situations, he said. Well, top defense lawyer Khan's senior counsel shocked at PM's Justice Favors criminal statements. Head of the Criminal Bar Association, Israel Khan, senior counsel, said he is totally shocked and flabbergasted at the Prime Minister's latest comments on the judiciary. I am in total shock and flabbergasted of the PM saying the justice system is skewed in favor of the perpetrators, not victims, Khan said when contacted on Friday evening. He has been in charge of the government for the last 9 years. They would have foreseen this problem, and this didn't now start. It started many years ago. I am more shocked that the Prime Minister admitted that he does not know what to do to fix the system. Khan said the issue of bail was not to keep people in jail, but to ensure that a person who is presumed to be innocent until found guilty by a court can access his or her freedom while awaiting the judicial process under specific court-ordered conditions. The onus is on the state to prove that you're guilty. Now, I made this comment when we were talking about the bail laws by themselves and bail for murder. And I said I was basically in support of bail for murder. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But bear in mind, you do not get bail for being convicted of murder. You get bail when you are charged with murder, or you can access the possibility of bail. And here's the thing that I find strange. This is supposed to be something overseen by judges, by human beings. We don't need a law to say that once someone is charged with murder, they will never be able to access bail. That sounds insane because someone is supposed to be presumed innocent. And if the facts of the case are a little strenuous, you do not want to throw someone in prison, in jail, with no bail for just an accusation. And especially, as the Prime Minister rightfully pointed out, our judicial system takes so long. So you could have someone languishing in jail for 15 years. No bail could be accessed. And then at the end of 15 years, you find out they're innocent. Then what? No, that's not fair. So you understand the point of bail. That's the idea of bail. The problem there isn't the access to bail, but how long the case takes. So, okay, there may be multiple complaints there. One, cases take too long. And because cases take too long, alright, if someone is out on bail, they get a lot of time, they're basically free and forget about it. But at the same time, because the cases take so long, it's unfair to leave someone without bail because they have not yet been proven guilty and you are punishing them. Bear in mind, in our court system, in our judicial system, you are supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So if my presumption is innocence, how can I be locked behind bars? You don't lock up innocent people. You have to prove my guilt. Now, unfortunately, this all takes very long. And the Prime Minister, I understand the PM's frustration in that. Because in the length of time it takes, and I've made this point regularly, for anyone who lives in any of those hotspot communities or communities that have a little shadow and shroud of criminality in it, and you know some of those troublesome guys, the guys in the community that give the trouble. Anyone who lives in those communities is aware that almost all of those guys are out on bail currently for a case that is ongoing. Nearly every troublesome person in every community has a case, currently ongoing in court. Khan said the issue of slow justice not only affects TT, but the entire Commonwealth. He pointed at many other issues that TT faces, including the opposition and government's failure to sit down around the table and come up with plans. What has happened is that crime is treated in isolation. Young people who are joining gangs usually come from a certain background. Where are the trade schools in this country? Where is the encouragement to do national service? When are they going to give people gainful, meaningful employment instead of CPEP and URP jobs? Where is the reorganization of the TTP? Why is the army not assisting the police with joint patrols? Why? What has me really mad is I never thought the Prime Minister would have said that. I still doubting he said that. If he's talking about all these things, then he has put his hands up in the air and said, look, I can't handle this and I don't know what to do, Khan said. Here's the thing. I find it interesting that he pointed out the slow justice problem is a problem throughout the Commonwealth. And then he proceeded to point at all the other issues. Now, I agree with those other issues. I'll start with saying that. I agree there are those other issues. But slow justice is a problem. And shouldn't that be something that we seek to solve? It could nearly seem like he is saying, don't study the slow justice. There are all of these other issues. And my problem with that, and I've said this numerous times, especially in the Commonwealth, a lot of these laws seem to really just be URP programs for lawyers. You see, the benefit of a slow justice system is lawyers are always employed. When you are hired for a case this year, you know you are going to be on that job for the next 20 years. One case is 20 years of work. And isn't that perfect for the lawyers? Isn't that convenient? That we could say, no, don't look at the judiciary, look at everything else. Don't study us. But that is a problem. And lawyers just making hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars off of the back of that system that clearly is not effective. I think something needs to be fixed. And the idea that it's unfixable is ridiculous. But to go on with the rest of what he said, I agree with that. And I've said this on numerous occasions, especially pertaining to when the police and our Ministry of National Security and Minister of National Security, say certain things, like they're trying their best. You see, the issue is, if you say you are trying your best, and you are seeing 2 murders per day, then you are telling us that there's nothing you could do about stopping the level of murders that there are. Telling me you are trying your best only scares me as the police. Is this your best? Really? This is the best we could do? That's not a comforting thing to say you're trying your best. So now for the Prime Minister to basically suggest the same thing. For the Prime Minister to suggest basically the same thing that you all do understand. I tried my best. I've been working on this now for years. And I am as frustrated as all of you on the issues at hand. But sir, this is your job to solve. If you are saying that you don't know how to solve it, shouldn't you then be leaving the job? If as the Prime Minister you see that there's nothing you could do, you don't know how to speed up the judiciary, you tried everything in your power and you just don't know how, then really and truly what we should be doing now as a country is you included, Dr. Rowley included, should be looking for a new Prime Minister to lead this country, someone who has the ideas on how to fix and speed up the judiciary. If you have done your best and there's nothing more you could do, and the thing is still failing, then you aren't the man for the job. That's just the reality. If you tried your best and your best isn't good enough, then you aren't good enough. That's unfortunate, but it's the reality in so many other things. If I go and I try out the NBA draft is coming up, the combine. I go and I try out for the combine. I see LeBron James' son is trying out and there's some talk about that, whether he's good enough or not. If I go and I try out and I'm just not cutting it, I'm not jumping as high, my acceleration isn't up there, my shooting is at 2%, but I tried my best. That was legitimately all I had in the tank. I gave it all I got. That was the best. Then I'm just not the person for the job. The man say he's a traditionalist. What you all expect? Innovation? I don't think he's a traditionalist either. And it's not even like I expect innovation. I think a lot of the oldest techniques and forms could be used to solve a lot of those things. PNM love nepotism. Is it only PNM that loves nepotism? Or is it politics loves nepotism? Is there a political party in Trinidad and Tobago that does not engage in nepotism? By chance? Are you aware of one? I'm not. I don't know. You'd have to inform me of that political party, sir. And talking about bail, before we get into that, the killing of the 4 suspects in the kidnapping. In relation to that, one of our MPs in Trinidad and Tobago had a comment. Give people confidence in justice system. Opposition MP Khadija Amin is reminding law enforcement officers that perpetrators must be afforded a fair trial so that the public can regain confidence in justice. Amin's comments follows Thursday's police-involved shooting that claimed the lives of 4 men suspected of being involved in the kidnapping of doubles vendor Nisha Hussain Singh. Police have revealed that the 4 men were linked to the resistance gang. We have reached that frightening place in Trinidad and Tobago where people are happy about this happening, when extrajudicial killings are a very serious matter. So I trust that we will not have more situations like this. I trust that the police will be able to capture persons who perpetrate crime in a more efficient manner and give people back confidence in the justice system. What? I don't actually agree with that, you know. If police in attempts to kidnap a criminal, he wants to go down fighting, I am very fine with them dying every single time. Every single time I'm okay with the criminal dying if they want to put up a life or death fight. I'm very fine with that. And if you're talking about trust in the justice system, you think, Miss Amin, if these 4 men were captured, that would have given Trinidad and Tobago trust in our justice system? What do you think was going to happen if the 4 of them were captured? Why would you endorse that. And you don't even know if in this case it's a case of the police just murdering the men. According to the police report on this, there was an exchange of gunfire. So why would you want the police to still try to capture those men? And you know, it's interesting because Miss Amin herself was the victim, allegedly, of an attempted kidnapping recently. It's nearly curious that Miss Amin, who is the MP for very close to that region, listen to all of these things, she's the member of parliament for very close to that region. She allegedly had an attempted kidnapping recently from someone who is also allegedly from that region. The someone who is allegedly a former close was in a former close relationship with her. And the person also allegedly has been fingered as being a known figure. It's very curious that she seems to be batting on the defend the criminals side, bring them to courts. Very curious. Very curious. I think she didn't even press charges on the person who allegedly kidnapped her. And she wants the police to capture these people. Regardless if they are shooting out with the police, capture them, because that's what will return faith in our justice system. Hear this. Dead kidnap suspect was on bail in Pennywise killings. It hurt me to hear, says relative of man dead in forest gunfight. Police are hunting for more suspects connected to the kidnapping of Anisha Hussain following the killing of 4 men on Thursday. Hussain, we know where she was kidnapped. The Express also attempted to speak with relatives of all 4 men who were shot and killed by police around 9:45 a.m. on Thursday in a forested area of St. Michael Road, St. Augustine. St. Augustine, just so you know, is the constituency that Miss Khadija Amin is the member of parliament for. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. The 4 said to be members of the resistance gang were Tavon Maynard, who lived in Kelly Village, Carney until he moved out 4 years ago, Akeem Ponnet alias Scheme of St. Michael Road, St. Augustine, Christopher Noriega, 5 Rivers, Aruka, and Joshua Allen alias Bounty, address unknown. Only 1 relative spoke, that of Tavon Maynard. The Express visited the relatives of the 2 others at their homes, but in both cases they declined comment. Maynard's aunt asked not to be named, but said the Tavon who was killed was not the Tavon she knew. She said he had parents, but from age 5, his mom left Tavon in her care as she worked in Tortola, British Virgin Islands, and would send him money and clothes. What do children really need? Morning, Nisi. What do children really need? Money and clothes. Nevertheless, I mind Tavon, and it hurt me to hear the news. I bawled and I cried. She claimed that police framed them a few years ago on a cocaine possession charge, which turned out to be flour. She said Tavon had been living in Kelly Village until her son and Tavon had a falling out and an altercation, which led to Tavon leaving. I had not seen Tavon for years, but you always hearing the police looking for him for whatever reason. They're running into my place, and I told them Tavon is no longer living here for years. But I used to worry about him because as a mother, you talk to your children, but you don't make their minds. I hate that statement. I despise it. I forgive him, she says. The aunt said that Tevon's father rejected him, as he was not sure that Tevon was his. You could look at the background story and see what leads to certain outcomes, eh? What possibilities might there be that a father would think that the child is not his? She said his mother leave and went to Tortola to make a living, and she left Tevon with us. He went to school, and me and my dead husband mind him as I was the only mother he knew. But after he grew to be a big man and he wanted to do his own thing, you cannot speak to them, so you just have to leave them, she said. Asked where Tevon worked, she replied Tevon never really worked because his mother would send money for him from Tortola. And when children getting things from abroad, they want to work. You see, in the creation, mommy leave, but mommy would always send stuff for me. So I grew up with an understanding that I am just supposed to get things. And if I don't get the things, well, I have to go out and get it. And take it. At Noriega's Aruka home, his relatives did not want to speak. Police, however, told the Express that he had been charged with the September 19th, 2022 shooting deaths of security officers Jeffrey Peters and Jerry Stewart during a heist at Pennywise Plaza, La Romaine. Noriega and another man, Brent Walcott, were both released from custody after accessing bail in the sum of $6 million for both of them. The men were ordered to report every day to the Aruka police station close to where they lived, and were also ordered to remain indoors between 10 p.m. and 5:30 a.m., which were the conditions of their bail. The two, however, absconded and never returned to court for the follow-up hearings. The Express also visited another one of the alleged perpetrators' homes, and nothing. What is it? So what about the people that are going on vacation, working in a warehouse or in the field or in a... Well, that's the thing, White Leather. If you are extorting all businesses from Barataria to Arima, from Maracas St. Joseph to Caroni, that entire quadrant of the country you're extorting, you can have access to a lot of money. And then in that case, why give people like that bail? And their judges listening to these cases? No, 6 million is not 60k cash. It's 10%. 10% of 6 million is not 60k, that's 600k cash. That's a lot of cash to access. But I mean, when you have cash coming in nefariously, it's easy. And then, if all of that is true and the accusations as the police made them are true, you could understand then why they would be into kidnapping. They are on the money game. They are trying to make as much money as possible. And the multiple of the source doubles outlets would be located within their active region. So, was it a kidnapping to send a message? Was it an attempt to extract more money? But it's very strange for the MP for the region to make a complaint about arresting these guys when it's known one of these guys ran away from bail. How is that possible? Yup, Valiant, yup. And that's what you notice. And it's the nature of crime. Crime is perpetrated by a minority. It's not the majority of people in any country, in any society, in any culture, in any region that are the criminals. The crime is perpetrated by a minority of people. And that's why crime fighting is actually possible. Because it is actually possible to deal with that minority of people if you are serious enough. And following the trend, nearly every day after showing one of those crime leads to poverty stories, not poverty leads to crime. And I'm trying to get that message out there as far as possible, because Trinidad seems to run on the mantra that poverty leads to crime. So one of the ways to solve crime is to fight poverty. Let's have a war on poverty, beat up poverty. And if we could beat up poverty, it will kill crime in the long run. No. Vice versa, people. Another one of the stories showing just that. Worker threatens to sue employer after being shot in robbery. An attendant at a poultry farm who has been unable to return to work since being shot in his back during an attempted robbery in March has threatened to sue his employer for negligence. He's threatening to sue Arawak and Company Limited. Jagasa claimed that his client was wounded as he attempted to stop a robbery at the company's Demerara Tunnel farm on March 10th. The bullet fractured one of Letren's vertebrae and one of his ribs. He was subsequently assessed to be 10% permanently partially disabled and was unable to return to work. As a result of the injury, the intended claimant has constant lower back pain and is unable to bend and perform strenuous activities, Jagasa said. He now frequently needs physiotherapy to help aid and improve his function, he added. Jagasa claimed that between 2015 and 17, there were frequent robberies at the facility, including one in which Letren's co-worker was pistol whipped and another in which another worker was shot in his leg. He claimed that his client and his colleagues requested additional security measures, but were ignored. In response to these persistent and repeated violent robberies, the intended defendant's only response to provide a safe and secure working environment was the installation of approximately 25 signs and some lights at the back of the pen, he said. Here's a question I have on this though. If the business, the owner of a company, is responsible for what criminals do to their workers, can we then link that to the case that showed the government was responsible for the death of the domestic violence victim? Because in the case with the victim of domestic violence, who was eventually killed by her partner, who turned the gun on himself and ended himself also, in case you wanted to know how it all ended. In that case, her mother won against the state, because the court said it's the state's job to protect people's rights to property, rights to life and enjoyment of property and all of that and all of that. And if somebody was deprived of that because the state didn't take action, then the state is responsible and liable. I wonder, can Arawak then turn around and sue the state for what this worker is suing them for? Because really and truly, Arawak is not responsible for fighting crime in Trinidad and Tobago. They are not even responsible for fighting crime at their factory at their compound. The TTPS and the national security infrastructure is responsible for fighting crime. So if a criminal hurts you, who is the one that should be held accountable? Because what is the precedent that this sets? We are in a violent, criminal-infested country. And my worker, if my worker is hurt or harmed in a robbery, it's my responsibility, because I was supposed to do whatever I could do to make sure that couldn't happen. What would it cost in security to secure a business to the point where robbers, it's impossible for the bandits to get at it? What would the cost of that be? And you see, this is a business. This is Arawaks. They are chicken. So if Arawaks hired out Amalgamated to run a patrol around their chicken farms to make sure none of those gun-toting bandits return, what is that going to cost Arawak per month? And do you think they are going to lose it from profits? No, they are going to pass on that cost. And then we'd all be surprised and wondering how chicken prices going up. Well, look at your friendly neighborhood bandit and blame him. And this is something, and I'd like to see a lot more of these, because I always wonder why I don't see a lot more of these in Trinidad and Tobago, because I think they are pretty simple and effective. I think they would work very easily in Trinidad and Tobago. Extortionists held with gun in central sting operation. 2 men and a woman were arrested by police with a gun after they tried extorting money from a woman in Shoguanos on Friday afternoon. Police said officers of the Shoguanos CID and the Shoguanos Foot Patrol team received a report that criminals were demanding money from residents. The woman arranged to pay $600,000 to the extortionists and agreed to meet them to hand over the cash near RBC on the Shoguanos main road. The officers took up positions on the street and confronted the trio, who arrived to take the money. One of the suspects, a 44-year-old security guard, was found with a Glock 19 pistol with 15 rounds of ammunition, which belongs to the security company he works for. Security company guns doing robberies out here. But no. You see. If we allow regular citizens to get guns, that's what's going to be scary. We have to limit firearm licenses to the security companies, because the security companies are trustworthy. But why don't the police do a lot more of these? A lot more sting operations. Or you want the money, come and collect it at X place, and you go and collect it from 3 officers. I think a lot of those things would work, actually. And I'm glad they did it in Shoguanos. You know, I think also, you see, they spoke about the Shoguanos Foot Patrol and Shoguanos CID. And this is what I talk about with localized policing. When you have localized policing with people with vested interests, you see, like the Shoguanos Foot Patrol, those are police that the community would be much more comfortable with. Those are police who would understand the goings on of Shoguanos. I think localized policing would actually help to solve a lot of these issues. And finally, on the police, Erla says failing at home church leads to indiscipline and lawlessness. Police Commissioner Erla Howard Christopher continues to reiterate the role of proper parenting and the role of the church in addressing the root causes of many of society's problems. She said, when we fail at home, we disadvantage our children and lay a foundation that breeds indiscipline and eventually lawlessness. On the church, she said, ideally, it should create a safe space for children to develop good morals and standards of behavior that will make them good citizens. Was it last night we were speaking about those? Was it last night we were speaking about those first 2 institutions, the first 2 primary institutions? family, and church. So, I'll start off saying, Tanti Ula, I agree with you 100% on this. You are right. A breakdown in family, a breakdown in religion, church, destroys society. Those are the core foundations of societal institutions that are supposed to build the society from the ground up. Societies aren't built from the government go down. The government doesn't write a constitution and then from that constitution grows this country. No. Families exist in an area. Those families have groups of morals and beliefs that they share, which would most likely be a religion. And from that shared belief and common location grows national identity. Supposed. So if you're an orphan atheist, automatically a criminal prospect? Possibly, actually. Possibly. Reality is a tough one. We looked at the situation of one of the accused kidnappers, and you look at the precursor to his life, and you see the conditions that lead to such things. So I agree. If the primary institutions break down, society is going to be very difficult to stay cohesive. My issue with this, as it has always been with the commissioner saying these things, is this is not actually her job. The job of the police commissioner is to, in spite of however the families and religious institutions have decayed, still uphold and enforce the law. That's your job. As the police, you don't really have a say in reinvigorating. As the police, you don't really have a say in making people more religious and more pious. You don't have a say in those things. Not that your statement is incorrect. Yes, it's true. That's true. Those things do negatively affect society. But that's not your role in society. Maybe if we hear, what's his name, Pastor Sammy. If I hear Pastor Sammy talking about that, fine, makes sense. That's his role. If I hear the Archbishop talking about that, that's his role. If I hear the SDMS talking about that, that's their role. I hear ASJA or what's the other one? TIL, is it TIL? I hear them talking about that. Fine, that's their role. If they're talking about the breakdown of religion and the belief system in society, and we no longer look to God and we have to return our focus to God, that makes sense. That is your role in society. If I hear the Minister of Gender and Family talking about the breakdown of the family and if I hear the Legal Affairs Ministry talking about the amount of divorces in Trinidad and what we are doing to try and turn around that because those divorces are disintegrating, fine. I hear regional councillors talking about, fine, beautiful, yes, those are your roles. But you are the Commissioner of Police. Whether the child had a loving parent or not, if he broke the law, your duty is to capture him. And when you come out to explain to us that there are extenuating circumstances that cause the problems that you are supposed to solve, it nearly seems like you're trying to excuse yourself for not doing the job as effectively. If I am your ship captain and I'm supposed to sail you, we're doing island tours. I'm supposed to go from Trinidad and carry you up the island chain. We're going St. Vincent or something of the such. and I am the captain. If we start going off course and I start telling you about the chefs on board weren't cooking enough and etc., you aren't worried about that. You want to know what's going on with the steering. Why isn't this steering on point? And I tell you, well, you see, what you have to understand is there's a guy, the cleaner. The cleaner doesn't really do his job. So that's why you get a stench inside of the ship. But sir, no one is holding the steering. The steering is your job. Go hold the steering and direct us. We'll go complain to the cleaner about cleaning, complain to the chef about cooking. You're coming to say that all the other issues make it impossible to do your job? Well, your job has always been in that nature. If it's impossible to do your job, just as I was saying with Dr. Rowley before, then the job is impossible for you and leave the job. Why would you stay doing the job if it seems like the job is out of your capabilities? Why would you do yourself that? I don't understand. All right, people, any questions or comments on the inside? See if there are any comments over on YouTube. All right. If there are no further questions or comments, that's all I have for now, folks. Ronnie says she's tired. Me too. Me too. It's been a long week. You make sense, and I like you for next Prime Minister. Anybody knows the meme of Kawhi Leonard, the basketballer? His laugh. Y'all ever Oh, Torres Lafoucard, what's your question? Prime Minister I don't think Prime Minister is for me. I have, to be honest, I don't have delusions of such. I don't have the impetus to do that. And the nature of our electoral system, and that's the difference between like a Prime Minister and an executive president. To have a Prime Minister who isn't really a career politician, that's a hard thing. Is when we the citizens going and stop take advantage from the powers that be and stand our ground. I want you to join the UNC. Oh gosh. Good one. Thanks for the offer. If you were the PM, what would be your next 5 moves? If I was the PM, what would be my next 5 moves? My first move is to hire round the clock outside private security before I start making moves. I fire and guard an emergency branch, and I go in foreign and get an elite protection squad before I do anything. That's first of the 5 moves. Second move, I think I'd lax firearm ownership, possibly. I'd lower that. Moves. Disintegrate quite a few ministries. Disintegrate quite a few ministries. Decrease the size of the public service significantly. And I think the idea that the partnership had with Iwatsky and Gibbs was a good one. So it's either finding outside leadership for the police service and giving them the power to make changes, or kind of decentralizing it to some extent and allowing maybe more localized sheriffs, as in elected officials. When I say sheriffs, that's what I mean by that, as in an elected police official for regional control. That's some of the primary stuff I'm doing. Which between the two evils would you choose when the time comes? Ha 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 ha. Torres Lafoucade. I'll see when the time comes, I guess. The fourth one, well, you really need that special forces. Yeah, I know. Once you start to tamper with things in Trinidad and Tobago, I think you're going to be a dead man in a short time. I think Trinidad and Tobago is extremely dangerous. I think the reason we don't have lots of politicians dying is because lots of them do not rock the boat. So if you want to know why a lot of them don't do anything, it's because they don't rock the boat. And I think if they did, we would have because we are top 5 or top 6 or something in violent countries in the world. But none of our officials are murdered. That's strange for most violent countries. You go in Colombia, you read the history of Colombia, El Salvador, those regions, and you see that with the violence comes murder of officials, because there are officials that attempt to make changes, and those officials, they don't allow them to stand. Trinidad, it's strange. Like since the prosecutor, Dana Sitahal, I mean, there was Dana, there was... The guy, was that in the 80s or something like that? Was it Richardson? Or am I remembering the wrong name there? Another one was murder. Yeah, but it's not a very regular occurrence. I think if you indeed were attempting to rock the boat in Trinidad and Tobago, they would be killing you. Because all you need to do to have an attempt on an official's life is have some youth men, some hothead youth men, who are willing to risk their lives to do it. If what the police is saying is right, and those 4 fellas found themselves in a wooden house in the forest and decided they will make a last stand and shoot out with the police and died, you think if those fellas, if what the police is saying right, we are supposing what the police said is right, we are going on that supposition, you think those fellas, if their boss ordered them to, wouldn't have taken a few shots at Parliament or someone in Parliament? They're willing to risk death anyway. It's but willing to risk death, that's all. It's not even like, you know, like in countries like Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Iran, or you go to one of those more archaic style countries in their justice, and you make an attempt at an official, you would be tortured and your punishment would be worse. But in Trinidad and Tobago, if you make an attempt at Dr. Rao, I'm not saying for anyone to do this. This is all hypothetical. But if you were to make an attempt at him versus making an attempt at any other regular person, by and large, the legal treatment is supposed to be around the same. You're not going to go to prison and be tortured any extra. So I don't think it's a massive deterrent to doing it, beside the fact that just the officials aren't in the way of the criminals that much. I don't think the officials and the politicians are obstructing the criminals enough for the criminals to even consider making it an attempt. And think about that for a moment. These guys are willing to murder groups of people. They're willing to drive into a district and shoot up 10 people. Don't care. Bear in mind, when you see a shooting with 8 people shot, 9 people shot, that means the shooters were willing to have 8 people dead on the ground. They were very okay with that. SUS is banned from your... What's SUS? I don't know. You can make change in Trinidad with your vote. Okay, 499. I understand you are the resident UNC activist, but I am not as faith. I don't have as much faith in your party as you do. I mean, we did have your party here from 2010 to 2015. It's not like they are an unknown entity. We are the hub for guns and drugs in the Caribbean, yet our politicians live comfortable. Go figure. Exactly, Valiant. It's telling. Very, very telling. A country like ours, political life is supposed to be dangerous. I'm not saying I want it or wish it to be dangerous. But by default, it's supposed to be dangerous. These guys murder by the day to keep their business running. And if you are doing your job as an elected official, you are supposed to be doing everything in your power to undo their business. If they are willing to kill every day to keep their business running, and you are doing everything in your power to undo their business, shouldn't you be within their crosshairs? And none of them are. This is not to say I want to see any of our elected officials have an attempt on their life. I'm just clearing that up one time. Because, you know, some people could get the wrong message. But many might be directly involved. Indeed. And I don't doubt that at all. Yes, I did, Ronnie. And I don't have a problem with this video at all. It's just like I said, oh my goodness, the how preposterous and insulting it is for people to tell human beings with the ability to make children, how about you try making children? Oh, what an insult. And you know what I look at in the comments and I see? And it's an amazing thing I see online. Amazing. I look at the comments in posts like those, and you see a group of women 28 and under, all saying their age. I'm 27, and I don't want to get married, and I don't want no children. No children for me. I'm going to enjoy myself. We saw our mothers suffer. We saw the suffering, and we don't want that. We're going to enjoy ourselves, and I'm going to travel the world, and I'm going to... Okay. A bunch of girls 28 and under promoting that. And then you see a bunch of girls 30 and older saying that, you know, nobody told us that we should have had children younger. They betrayed us. They didn't give us the right advice. It's kind of strange, ain't it? In the zone where you should be taking the advice, it costs anybody who even whispers it to you. And then in the zone when you see the importance of the advice, all of a sudden you curse the world, wondering why they didn't advise me better. Any young lady who is upset at an older person suggesting that they start a family is a walking red flag. And if you are a young man, run away from such young ladies. They are toxic. They are argumentative. They are confrontational. And they are anti-family. Now it had hens saying, well, yes, it would have those. There are always the rainbow community that is very pro extreme feminism, and then there are the Simpson and beta men who never miss the opportunity to take a woman's side. Yes, woman, yes. It's ridiculous. As the father of a daughter, I'm letting you all know. If you all don't like men giving advice to women, you all better unfollow me from now. Because if you see I go and have a second daughter or something out there, I am going to be the resident woman advisor out here, a female advisor. And if you feel y'all toxic, bitter 40-year-old single women who swallowing antidepressants and SSRIs to try and stay above water, going to advise my baby girls and them, or my baby girl, to go down that road with you, you have another thing coming. Thanks for 99. I was being a bit facetious. Why no one saying sis should have kept her opinion to herself? Of course they won't say that. the thing is, though, it's still probably the best thing that he did it, because what you'd notice is there are lots of loud-mouthed disagreeers, but there are many people who agree too. There are many likes on it without a comment. There are probably more likes than comments, and all of those likes aren't misogynist males. They are women too. Trini, what have you reached when I look into go, bro? What going on? And they always driving a Kia Rio. Is the RL? I'm gonna paint the picture for you. The low haircut. They went and get the haircut by you know the man that is dance and scream after he cut every hair now. No offense. No offense, man. But they went and get the low haircut and the big frame glasses. You see those two? Low haircut and big frame glasses. Brother, starter pack. Starter pack. Low cut, big frame glasses. That is it. That is it. If you see a septum ring, well, it dead. The dead. Fully dead. Septum ring, run. But a low haircut and a big frame glasses, that's a queen. KWEEN. That's a queen, brother. Know that. Like, if I see a septum ring, I immediately kind of get the impression that this person is going to argue with me. I'm sorry, I just immediately get that impression. This is somebody going to get in an argument with me. I just see it. They're going to argue. I understand why the barbers change the method. I agree 100% with Homeboy. That's marketing. There are going to be an enormous number of 30-plus-year-old single women. And as I said, single women, I heard one time somebody say, single working women spend money like drug dealers. And those single women are going to take more outrageous hairstyles because they don't have a husband who is going to tell them, you like, do you cut your hair, you don't cut that hair, you They don't have husbands to tell them that. So, they're feeling to change themselves and renew themselves and revive themselves. And, whoa, that's why haircuts could charge for $200 now. And the haircut is no longer, let me get a little fresh there. Have you seen the mirror? Yeah, boy, good. Now the haircuts are a makeover. I love it though. I love it. Marketing at its finest. Bro, that $200 haircut with all that wasn't going to work on the men. Market to the people that it would work on. Brother, I agree. If I could have thought of it before you, I would have been dancing around cutting feminist haircuts too. For $250 a pop. Bro, count me in. Leave the woman, you have lots of books, yes I do. Leave the woman alone and do something more worthwhile. Leave which woman alone? I'm not harassing any woman out there. Oh gosh. Yeah, Torres, you know the thing. A fancy mark, and then I give you a little airbrush too. So I spray it up. But you know that airbrush, from the time you wash it, you have to come back to do it over again. And when I give you a little tribal design, you're going and get what they call it, a 530 shade on your design in no time. If you want your design to look sharp, you have to come back next week. Marketing, bro, marketing. I give you right. Any other questions before I dive out, people? Any other questions before I dive out? Oh yes, women upset that they're being advised to be mothers. Ain't that a thing? And you know, the interesting thing, I grew up as a young man around girls growing up. At least in the 90s when I grew up, nearly every young girl dreamt of children and family, and that was something they regularly played around with, more than the boys. So for those same girls who were 8 years old, dreaming of a family and children and doing those things, to reach 20 years later and hate everything about it, I say a narrative was sold. All right, as Ronnie said, sleep tight, mind folks. Be mindful, not mindless. Trini Hotep, bro, and you messaged me, bye. I was actually waiting for you to. Wait, one more piece of controversy. What's that, Torres? Playing with baby dolls. Yeah, it's a natural thing. It is natural. That's why to undo that, that's some doing. Somebody spent some effort undoing women's natural yearning for family. It's like fellas naturally yearn to provide. Men have that naturally. They have that inbuilt. Torres, you know you really says a piece of controversy you're coming with here. You really says a piece of controversy you're coming with here. Oh my goodness. So we're going to have a bilingual next generation, and that's actually a very good point, you know, Torres. That's a good point, because I don't think our Latina neighbors have the same offensive reaction to family and motherhood as our locals. India at 1.3 billion people, birth control not working. India doesn't want birth control. India loves their 1.3 billion. Their 1.3 billion is making for them, and it looks better and better with each passing year. I know someone that was late in Tagalog. Oh, good. Passport bros, we up. but it's a reality. And the truth is, that has always been a thing, you know. It's just that the world has become smaller as it will now, so people could go further out. But that was always a thing, where someone who has the resources and they aren't finding someone suitable here, they go elsewhere. And by all means. And what would that do to you is just you be the one who is single and miserable as you age and watch everyone else with their family. I guess we'd revisit this question when we are all 50 and see if the 50-year-old single independent women that are still touring the world are as happy as they said they would be, and see if the family people are as happy as they said they would be. But fellas, run from the red flags, eh? I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. Too sweet to be forgotten says, for me, lol, it's no money, lol, no kids. So from early I said I'll make in 40s. Sweet. Too sweet to be forgotten. I don't know if you know it. Do you know what they call pregnancy after the age of 35? And I'd urge you to go read up on the statistical probabilities of complications to yourself and to the baby after the age of even 37, much less for 40. Torres, high risk is the modern euphemistic way of saying it, is the modern politically correct way. Word up, Ronnie. I'll message. Too sweet to be forgotten. That's... I mean, it's your choice, but that's... The chances are very high you reach there and you recognize, well, nope. I understand why, but we had that discussion in Torres. They aren't as expensive as people think. They aren't as expensive as people think, and that's part of the narrative sold to the modern generation, that babies are too expensive for you, that's why you shouldn't have them. And they are not that expensive. It's narratives. They are narratives sold all around. And there are a large group of people that are overtly anti-natalist. They believe there are too many people on earth, and they want there to be less. And they push narratives for people to make less children. They do not want you to have more children. So there are many narratives that are pushed on that are not correct. Children are not as expensive as they say. It's not nearly as expensive as they say. Alright, I'm out, people. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be Tuesday night. Tuesday night around that 9:30 p.m. time. Until then, people, stay well, stay inside, stay safe. Outside, they're sketchy. And Ronnie, are you listening now? Plus, it's more of the time I working. I don't like how school time lines up with job hours. Well, it's too sweet to be forgotten. You're figuring certain things out. The working obstructs the babies.